So because this software that records my screen didn't want to hold on to the 45-minute video that I had already started before, it made me stop and make a new one. So, hopefully this will go where I left off. Thank you, Jamie Foxx. That's a very good ad.
Here's what's really cool though about going abroad. If your LinkedIn ad said, "Hey, Dad, do you have a daughter?" What's interesting is you.
Hold on, let me see if I can turn all this off. I don't think I fixed anything. Oh well, here we go. And like I said, here we go.
Worth, if you go into cliche, right? That human, if it's a good piece of creative, is going to pass that on to his nephew whose daughter rides, or his boss. You know, that's what's amazing about social. Nobody rips out a fucking newspaper ad and brings it. No, you know, like think of it, right, or watches a commercial, takes out their phone, records it, but people do pass on social creative. That's good. Be like, hey, do you know about this company? See where I'm going? So that's the reason to go broad. Social media is special. I just don't understand how people don't see it. And let me phrase, it's hard. It's hard. It's new. It's the reverse of the old world. It's literally the reverse. It's all bottom up instead of top down. So it just doesn't come natural to people because most people are not consumer centric. It came natural to me because I grew up in a retail store, selling, knocking door to door. It was only the customer. There was no academia. There was no thesis. There was no consulting. And I was always on the hook. Even people that are street kids that go into companies immediately aren't on the hook. So that's how I got there. You know, it's taken a while for me to realize why, but that's the game. Got anything?
Yeah. Apart from the starting business question,
By the way, on that, back to, because you set it up, the answer is yes. You just run a marathon. When you have to be profitable, what you're going to learn, and that's why I think we've got the model down, and you'll do it internally with us, somebody else, is you'll get math that works for you. You just won't be able to scale it in a way that somebody who's losing money every day could scale it. But as somebody who competed against wine.com that had $168 million in funding, and I had nothing, and I won, it's because 2000 happened. When the world melts, all these DTC brands are finished. Finished. They're completely built on the next round until they sell it to one of you. And I think you guys, and not you know, but like macro CPG big brands are finished because channel conflict. Because it's deja vu. The best bet I ever made was when the internet collapsed. I was only 24 years old. All the stock market collapsed, April 2000, dead, right? I bought Amazon because it was the first time I understood that Wall Street, because I didn't know, was different than real life. Amazon was going to win, but Wall Street did different shit. Because it's just and that's when I figured it out. That's what's going to happen. Shit's going to hit the fan tomorrow. Everyone's going to melt. Procter and J&J and Pepsi are all going to high five and be like, "See, fuck those fuckers." But in the ashes are going to be the actual companies that put them out of business. Which is why you should do that. Meaning, just build something that's profitable. That's it. That's it. The two biggest things you have to do is make sure creative and math and insights are working together, not separate, and you make a fuckload of creative. The biggest issue for them at $4, $6, and $12 is how many creative variables the agency's making. That's it. The target's right. 23-year-old dudes and fucking shortage is not hard.
You do volume of creative, right? I mean, that's the bit, right? We've been hearing about it today. Would you also apply the same principle to businesses?
Yes.
Volume of businesses?
I thought you were going with R&D of products. Go with businesses.
New brands.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Especially if you do R&D that way.
Should hear his question.
I would literally create a channel on social media called Make Pretend Products and just post every day and see what people give a fuck about, and then go make that orange juice with coconut oil. Why guess? You had to guess because there was no way, the internet didn't exist. So yes, I would. But I would do it the way I just said. I wouldn't guess. Unless strategy, right? You guys are a big company. If Unilever or J&J or Procter has something that you're pissed off about, and there's like good reason to like fuck with them, like Hims, you know, like things like that, just to fuck, because you're fighting a war. So you're like, you know what? Let's go fuck around in that battle. That could be a a place where you could lose and still win, right? Like if I was running a big conglomerate, I would look at the place where my biggest competitor is winning. I would make a product that I was going to lose money on with the sole reason of making that brand seem not cool to the end user.
And if you were running a big company, would you buy these companies?
If I felt the talent in that company would be able to not just drive that business, but drive the DNA of the whole organization. If I was like, these guys are so dynamic, and when I bought them, I'd be like, look, I'm going to pay you twice. You're getting 40, 50 million offers. I'm going to give you 100. 100. But I'm not giving you dick until the end. I'm going to give you 5 now and 95 in year 4. Contractual. Like, we can't fire you. You'll get it all. And in 4 years, you have to change the DNA of the organization. I don't even give a fuck if your little thing grows. I need to fucking fix this.
Okay, I'll try and bring it quick. Basically, this year for our website company,
Yes.
we are working on empowering our staff to help.
By the way, it's super smart. If you can figure out how to not let anybody be the judge of the creative, you will win.
That's kind of the issue now. And I know it's not unique.
Who is it? Who's the judge in your world? The CEO, a founder, 2 bosses, somebody? Like, who is it?
Well, the founders are very much
That's your problem.
involved in terms of
That's your problem. That's your problem. That's
our gifts to our brand, and it's like, well, it's
Them.
also subjective.
Them.
We don't like it.
them.
So
Them.
I have to really
You pound them.
do the nicest possible.
Yes. You educate them.
So I see
Their
someone's
subjective
cell
call
phone on a
is the
tripod.
vulnerability. It's back to humility. It's back to the wonderful question he asked, like, why doesn't that frustrate you? Because I have more humility than I have ego. I mean, I'm putting out content about me. Forget about empathy or fucking a hotel or a sneaker or a shaving cream or a vitamin. And I'm wrong all the time. It's me. I read all my qual, and I'm wrong enough. That's what proved to me, like, if that's happening with me, who nobody's deeper into quant, then like, I'm in, and it's me, and I'm producing it, and I know, and I'm wrong, game over.
So it's kind of coming back to my first, this is actually marketing, so that is one.
I mean, literally, that's exactly right. And then just, you know what? I think what I do well is I get to the punchline quick, right? If you go to the punchline quick, and I keep pointing because I'm just so excited, because I'm curious, it's going to be awesome to see what you do or don't do, but it is the punchline. If you sit down with 2 founders and be like, and this depends on if you're willing to get fired, having a good enough relationship, but if somebody just says, hey, Joe and Johnny, here's the punchline. Your subjective fucking call on if that's cool or not cool, good or bad, means nothing. The end. That doesn't mean you can't have, like, you know, when people hear me say that, they
That's
go,
tough for
Gary,
people
what about
to
the guy
hear.
who said, if I listened to my customers, I would have made faster horses. Then I would say, good. Then you would put out the car would have worked, and everybody would agree. Back to businesses and products. So if they're so right, let them post 4 times a day. You don't, by the way, you want to really work it? Don't post on the Instagram account. Run them as ads and see what actually works. You can run 1,000 pieces of Instagram content a day. Run them as ads. They don't show up on the main page. It's why everybody loves stories. Everybody puts the main feed on such a pedestal, like it's your fucking art in your home. But stories is just like whatever. So people produce like crazy for stories, but are fucking crippled by the main feed. I just treat the main feed like stories. Better than
Imagine if every time you swiped your debit or credit card, you were setting aside money and investing money for the future.
Not in the fiat dollar. Thank you very much. All right. I think we need to go to find Ask Gary V. Do this game again. I think I was on 15. What's crazy is that in looking back at all these, like, I don't know if I recorded it or not, these faces. Looking back looking back at videos from him in 2012, he's literally saying everything the same today, but even more relevant because I'm actually doing it. I don't know. It's hard to describe. So yeah, I think I finished 15. What are we at? 11, 14, no, 16.
Talk about the Apple Watch, setting goals, and I get deep.
So I guess they're still at the hotel room for the last one.
Hey everybody, this is Garyvee, Nerdchuck, and you're watching the Ask Gary V Show, episode 16. Fun fact about the number 16, I dislike the number.
Santiago asks, what do you think about the Apple Watch?
Santiago, I've been here in Atlantic City all week and did not watch the performance, so I actually know very little about the Apple Watch. I think it's kind of ironic that Steve's asking me this question, but I chose to answer it, and here's why. I'm gonna answer it philosophically. I actually didn't see all the bells and whistles. I literally know nothing about the Apple Watch. I saw like some random picture in a Twitter feed, but here's what I do know. This becomes this, this becomes this, and then this becomes this. We are absolutely 100% going robotic. And I mean over the course of the next 100 plus years. And so the evolution of information being closer to us started with something that looked like this, well, further, but like you go back and it evolved to something that was always on us. Now it's going to be kind of like even closer, like not even going in the pocket. Google Glass and things of that nature I think are underrated. I think more of that kind of stuff is coming as well. And so I think it's evolution, the human evolution.
Hey Gary, how's it going? My name is Adorian Deck. I make YouTube videos, and I created the Twitter account OMG Facts. Now I control and manage a network of many different accounts on many different social platforms. And my question for you today is, do you believe creating my own website with valuable and original content to drive traffic to is a reasonable investment for long-term branding? Or do you believe that websites are going to be irrelevant eventually with this mobile revolution?
That's a good question.
Should I be looking more into app development or something that I'm not even looking at? Let me know. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question a lot of people are struggling with. I will say this, I have GaryVaynerchuk.com. Oh no, you can't look it out. The link's in there. Anyway, I have GaryVaynerchuk.com for a reason, not for kicks and giggles. I want to have a platform that I fundamentally control all aspects of. And so, when you're building brand on Twitter with a bunch of Twitter accounts like you are, like I am, when you're building a Facebook fan page and then all of a sudden Facebook deems for itself and for its audience and for you, believe it or not, that they need to drop down organic reach and everything you're putting out is not being delivered, you start understanding why having your own email service, having your own website matters, having your own app matters. If you deem that people are going to spend more of their time within the app than on a mobile native website, just because the world's going mobile or risky or this, or virtual reality, doesn't necessarily mean that the website is gone. It's really just a protocol for a place that you can own. And so what I would say is philosophically, you want to have your own house, but doing business in your vacation home or in a hotel also matter. If you understood that analogy, you're on your way.
Kyle asked, do you set and track personal business goals, aside from owning the jets? What do you find useful in the process?
I really don't set any business goals other than to continue to gain leverage. Pay forward, provide value to the audience, make money, keep it practical and ambitious, but I don't have a goal of like, I'm going to get VaynerMedia to 100 million and then this is going to happen, or the fund is going to return 3 times its $25 million investment at Vayner RSC and then this will happen, or in 4 years I'm going to get into the car wash business. I just don't go that route. My route is really, my fundamental play is, I always talk about my one goal being the Jets, and for the hardcore people that have followed my career, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball to you, give you a little more fun fact. It's kind of the thing that I want to do with this show. The only other core strategy I have is collecting people. Finding the individuals that I think I can jam with for the next 15, 20, 30, 45 years professionally. That to me is the global strategy. Who can I do business with as a teammate forever?
What's up, Gary? So, I just quit my job at radio after being on air since I was 16 years old. I kind of risked everything for this new Dash Radio app. I hope you've checked it out. You gotta tell me your favorite station. But what was the riskiest thing you've ever done in your career? Because it was tough for me to leave something I've been at for so long, especially an institution like traditional radio, in order to try something new with 0 listeners today to disrupt that industry. What was the toughest choice you ever made in your life or in business about leaving something that you've done to do something new?
Again, the enormous excitement I have behind doing this show, and thank you all for allowing me to do this show, is predicated on the fact that I get to tell you things you've never heard before. I'm going to say something that I've never, ever have talked about before, which is the toughest professional thing I've ever done. My cliche answer historically has been, leaving the wine library, which is my first love, and that's a very big truth. But as I've started becoming a little bit more in tune with my own feelings and have given this thought, the toughest thing I ever had to do, and Steve, pay attention, you're going to like this answer. The toughest thing I ever had to do, believe it or not, was make the decision that I was okay with putting myself out there. A lot of you probably have at this point forgotten, because the Garyvee persona and narrative has taken over my career and my Wikipedia and things of that nature. But the first 10 to 15 articles that have ever been written about me in the AP, in the New York Times, in the Wall Street Journal was WizKid Bill's business. That the establishment, the business world, the people that I look up to in ways, maybe not specifically because I don't really have heroes, but like respect their opinions and their accomplishments. I went from the narrative of being a great business operator that saw trends and executed it for financial gain, which is like something everybody deems to be so noble in business, to being a self-promoter, to being a social media guru, to being an author, making the decision that I could accept the rolling of the eyes of the Ivy League grads or the establishment, to get bigger reach, to build audience, to jam with people, to be human and extroverted, and taking that step back, or 2 or 3, in the minds of the top 2 or 3%, was a pretty interesting, difficult decision for me. Knowing what the consequences were of putting myself out there, and that I would be respected less for my business accomplishments because of it, wasn't the easiest thing that I ever had to deal with, and something that very honestly I still continue to deal with. Now, this is where you start getting into, I don't know, D-Rock, if you want to make it dark. But this is when you start getting into the darkness of it. In a weird way, I like the underestimation that comes along with it as well, because the truth is, the reason that entrepreneurship and business speaks to me, especially in an American context, is that the truth is undefeated. That ultimately, if I go and execute multiple $100 million businesses and make smart investments, it's all net, right? Like, you may not like the fact that I don't dress up, or that I curse on stage, or that I self-promote, or whatever you want to call it, but if I execute, you just have to eat it. And so that was clearly, DJ, the toughest thing for me, which was that I was consciously self-aware that I was entering a realm where I would start becoming more disrespected, even though my accomplishments were going to be greater. That mispositioning was something that was tough. Question of the day. Let's just actually, you know what? That was such a profound question. Question of the day. What is the hardest thing you ever had to do professionally? Because let's be honest, there's way tougher things of raising a child with a disability or bankruptcy or pain or a lot of emotional stuff. So in the context of business, what is the toughest business challenge that you've ever had to deal with? You keep asking questions, I'll keep answering them.
Is this going to go to the next one?
On this episode, I talk top line, bottom line, my dad's shoes,
So we're
and
going
Caputo's
backwards.
law. Hey everybody, this is Garyvee Chuck, and you're watching episode 15 of the Ask.
Oh, crap.
On this episode, I talk about the Apple Watch setting goals. Talk about dropping F-bombs, getting clients, and why I'm in such a bad mood.
So something I need to do for when I do this is be able to remember what I actually cover. Because when I'm done,
I am
I don't know.
Garyvee Chuck, and you're watching the Ask Garyvee Show, episode 17. Little fun fact about the number 17 is my grandma Esther's and Xander's birthday, the 17th. Before I get into the show and start answering these 5 great questions, 2 video, 3 regular, I just want to say that I'm in an enormously bad mood because the Jets blew an 18-point lead yesterday. Appreciate all of you that were interacting with me as I was judging Miss America yesterday. You might have noticed that my energy level was down. My energy level on this episode will be down in general as well because I'm still recovering. And one of you, the hardcore Vaniacs who watched Wine Library TV back in the day remember these kind of Monday episodes. For a lot of you newbies, you're not going to be used to it, but you need to take, just like my wine fans did, which was take the scores I gave the wine and add 1 or 2 points because they knew I was in a depressed narrative. You guys may want to take some of the advice on this episode as with a grain of salt. Maybe D-Rock, you could put like a warning sign here. Warning, warning, warning. I'm pissed off, and today's answers might be just okay.
Darren asks, if you could only market on one social platform, which would it be and why?
Darren, I picked this question because I'm pissed off, and I'm pissed off of people asking this question over and over again. I've been pounding my fist on the floor or the table over and over. This is a non-debate. It is Facebook, my friends. Facebook's data. Data, 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 data. Let me say it again as somebody who doesn't love data, who's more EQ than IQ, the overwhelming accuracy of who you are targeting and the products that they have created to target those people, including in-stream, not the right side of a website. So I'm over here. I like how you're staying. Go back there, D-Rock. Not the right side of a website, but right down the pipe, in the feed, targeted properly. And if you're a good enough marketer and you're putting out content people care about, not an ad, and we all see ads, no, a piece of content. And I know people are tired of the word content. Great, call it stuff. I don't give a crap. Just something people care about in there. When you know Steve, show Steve. You know Steve likes Reddit. You know Steve likes back. You know Steve likes wine. You know he likes these things. What else do you like, Steve?
Video games.
Great. What else, Steve?
Beer.
Great. So, give this man things of those nuances if you're a toilet paper or a toothbrush or a toy company or what is this? There's a phone, technology company. Like, give this man what he wants around the genres he cares about. Facebook is by far dark posts, that's a terminology, unpublished posts, the best platform to be selling things, doing business, getting money for your charities, building awareness about your cause. Facebook, 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 Facebook.
Hey Gary, Nicole Delonzo here from Taste Daily. I love the new series. So for the past 18 months, I've been delivering daily emails to a community of thousands of women. And this fall, my startup is getting ready to launch its first product. It's an interactive workshop called Victory Rituals, where we flip the morning routine on its head. As we go from concept to final product, what's the best way to empower our readers to help us spread the word about Victory Rituals? Look forward to your thoughts.
Got it, Nicole. I like how you positioned that, Nicole. How can we empower our readers to spread the word? What you mean is, how do we get our readers that we've been able to amass to spread the word so we can get more people into our funnel and sell this thing, which is great, because we're talking about business here. 2 ways. There's only 2 ways. And everybody saw lovely Nicole ask the question, and she was very politically correct, in my opinion, and structuring it properly. But what you're basically saying is, I've amassed an audience, and now I want to sell them stuff. And not only do I want to sell them stuff, because I feel like I'm entitled to, because I've given them a bunch of free content on email over the course of these last couple of months or a year, Nicole, how you've been doing it, plus. But I also want them to not only buy, but then I also want them to spread the word so other people buy. And there's only 2 ways to have the audacity to make that ask. And that's what that is, my friends. You could be doing a daily email and putting out great content. You could be putting out a great show every day.
How come I can't spell journeys?
Something, and there's only 2 ways to convert. Number 1, write a good book. In your case, Nicole, your product needs to be good. Is it worth the $38? Is it worth the $83? Is it worth the $388? Is it worth the $883? I used 3 and 8s in there if anybody was paying attention. So first and foremost, the best way to convert and empower them, aka have them push it on to others, is by putting out something great that they want to tell other people to use. They valued it more than they paid for it. Number 2 is good old-fashioned honesty. You just need to be really upfront with them of what you want from them. You want them to share your video. You want them to go to your website. You need to be upfront with the fact that here are the things that you want. And so for me, it's putting out a great product that's worth the money. And number 2, not hedging your right hook, just asking for it like a woman.
Dan asks, what's your process for vetting clients, specifically at VaynerMedia?
Dan, answer number 1, do you have enough money? Dan, answer number 2, what I'm really looking for, to not make a joke. And you know, this show's putting me in a better mood, guys. I gotta be honest with you. I forgot that that's what Wine Library TV did for me. On these Mondays where I want to annihilate people's souls, putting out a show with my community does help my feelings. I need a lot of comments on this episode, by the way. I need comments in there. I need comments. Anyway, you know, the things we're looking out for is, are they creative? The number 1 thing I'm scared of is we have a ton of creativity and we can do real work, but if people want to follow a very strict process of how they've always done it versus how we're supposed to do it, I'm petrified in that. And so really there's no way to do it because everybody says they want to be innovative and do the new thing and invest in the future. And then you get into practicality, and the first thing that's cut is the future, which is why so many people lose. So everybody's into defense versus offense when times get tough. For me, when times get tough, you go harder, not Anyway, so I'm trying to sniff out if people have the stomach to be innovative and do things differently, to take some risks, but be practical, but have a little more patience for that practicality and that ROI to present itself.
Gary, I've got a very serious question for you.
Hey, Brian.
How the do you get away with saying so many times on stage and not catch a bunch of flack for it?
Brian, as the CEO of an up-and-coming IPO company, I'm very impressed with your audacity to ask that question, which leads to my very simple answer, which is twofold. I think the reason I get away with dropping the F-bomb is, number 1, I mean it when I say it. There's no tactic. I'm just in the zone. I mean, I was inspired by Richard Pryor and Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy, and their styles have translated to my keynote styles. I feel like I do a little bit of a stand-up timing process, and I think that because I'm not forcing it and because it's my natural zone, little Jersey boy action, people respect authenticity. The other reason I'm able to get away with it is I don't care if I receive flack. As a matter of fact, I use the F-bomb to vet people. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. We're going to do it again in the question coming up. This is a platform for me, for the hardcore last 7 years fans of mine, for me to go 1 layer deeper into things I've never said before. The truth is, I actually use my F-bomb to vet other people. I actually react to the way you're reacting to my F-bomb, because if you are a person, back to the last question, that is so thrown off by using the F-bomb in public, in a public setting with a keynote, that you're then not looking at big enough picture. For me, just my personal, you're judging me, I'm judging you. So if you are incapable of getting over that and seeing the bigger statement that I'm creating, well then you're not gonna be somebody that I wanna do business with, invest in, or take on as a client to begin with, because you're at this micro level. That's right, you're at this micro level, and that's just not a place where I wanna play. I don't wanna play in the micro, so you.
Seth asks, what was the hardest thing when starting up VaynerMedia from scratch?
Seth, you know, this is another place for me to give a little bit of insight. Believe it or not, yes, not doing wine library day to day with my dad. Yes, the notion of taking the risk of being in another family business and not ruining the relationship with AJ. Confident on both fronts. The hardest thing was actually being crippled by options. The notion that over the first 9 months, it was very difficult for me not to think about the fact that me and AJ had 800 other things we could have done, and did we pick the right thing? I think a lot of people who are watching this are always crippled. I get this a ton, which is why I picked this question, why I didn't pick it. You know, Steve picked it, or we picked it, you know, how did we pick it?
Alright, I don't want to fill up this whole thing, so I'm gonna watch this, and if something good comes
I like
on,
this one because it allows me to give an answer to my audience that I see a lot of you struggling with. It's been asked of me a ton.
I'm just trying to give the best business advice that I can.
this is ridiculous.
And I do believe that when somebody stumbles across this, yes, there could be a call to action.
I don't get it.
Click and they could buy. But by me asking for something like sign up for this,
I'm trying to read this.
this video or in this world of YouTube,
Yeah, it's not so much happening.
the situation where that person
What the
can then look
crap?
at my name.
So I'm not really sure where I left off. If I knew what I was doing, I'd probably be doing this better, but I don't, so I'm making it up as I go along. I don't remember if I was doing replay, if I was going back into the Ask Garyvee. I think I was doing the old ones. Today is a different day. It's Monday, February 4th? 5th? One of those two. I can't remember, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be still doing this format or not, so let's just listen.
Is the reason that giving has cynicism around you got your perspective. I just want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? First, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'm sure you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you decided to be here. So I appreciate that. I'd love to do as much Q&A as possible. I think for, anybody in the audience, whatever the questions are in whatever genres, if you want to talk about the New York Jets, American football, that is something I can speak to, or anything else you'd like to speak to about. But just having a sense of the audience and knowing there's a mix of entrepreneurship and a mix of corporate. In this journey that you're going through, when, I'm always fascinated when someone does something. I think that the most interesting things I see in the world are more based on counter-punching skills than they are on the game plan you had going into the fight, right? I think the ability to recognize the collateral from your movement as a person or as an organization or as a business, and contextualizing it to the reality of what's happening, not the hypothesis or thesis you came into it, is super duper important. And I would argue a very important thing for every person in this room, whether professionally or personally, to think about, because that's then practical instead of pontificating or a hypothesis. For you, going through this, you start something, you start a hashtag, if you met me on day one and said, hey, I'm going to do this hashtag, I would have been like, bro, don't do a hashtag. Hashtags are not ownable. Like, you can put it out there, but right now I can use your hashtag.
So interesting. I think I've gone over this before, but what I use hashtags for are cataloging. So I kind of use them to compile my tweets, thoughts, whatever's but if I put the hashtag on the tweet, than anything like for my economy of ideas. Any of the ideas that I have that revolve around the concept of an economy around ideas, I put hashtag EOI, so that if anyone were ever to hit it, click on it, they would see everything that I've ever said about my thoughts on economy of ideas. So that's kind of what I use hashtags for.
Razor. I could. Like, they're not ownable, but what I wanted to ask that I thought could bring the most value to this group is, what's been the biggest surprise as you've gone through this journey? Like, what did you, ideology-wise, have in your head 3 years ago that's just fundamentally different today?
Yeah, so that's a really, really good point, because for me, I guess that's what I can hands up say I did not have going into this, is like that kickback questions. Once I just went in with an idea and went out and started executing it, and that was that. But the biggest surprise for me for sure has been the tiniest amount of people that kicked up against this, and I mean that in a way of like the competitive world of charity and business and all kinds of different things. I felt almost zero competition in what I'm doing. And although it's like super important too, I've thought plenty of times, it's like, yeah, it's just a hashtag, anyone can do something for nothing and do what they want with it, but I kind of want them to do that. I want them to go ahead and do exactly that. And I suppose there's enough populating this already that you can see what it's about, and I feel so lucky the fact that there's already enough of a journey to go, if someone tried to come in and it wasn't authentic, I think it would be ratted out pretty much immediately. But the biggest surprise, honestly, has been the small amount of haters I've had is quickly transitioned into, I feel like, people who see this for what it is. And I don't think that's anything to do with me personally. I think it's just that I'm not trying to shout at anyone. I'm just saying, here's how I'm doing it. Just playing the amplifier, and it seems to like have worked. Sounds like a bit of a bullshit way to say, oh, nothing's gone wrong. That's the biggest surprise. But
well, I think nothing. I speak about that too. I mean, I think nothing goes wrong when you don't have expectation. I think people have a lot of things going wrong because they fucking expected something. It's why people struggle with giving. Giving is giving on the person that you're giving it to terms, not yours. The amount of giving that is being done in the world that is disguised as manipulation to get something that you want after you give is the reason that giving has cynicism around it. It's not giving, it's manipulation. To me, we were talking, something to share, we were just
no more wobbly tables.
Something that I've been affected by in just giving or social good, or we got into brands and business talk a little bit, is that, the biggest issue to me about, companies and social good.
What is this, a restaurant channel?
It's been the startups who are using good as a front to their financial ambitions. The amount of companies after Tom's was successful, I personally, and I was kind of slowing down my investing during this period, I personally sat through 40 to 70 pitches where the person walked in and said some sob story about why they were so passionate about the red-headed ant, the insect in Afghanistan, and how every time somebody bought this cola, they would donate a cola to that ant or the kid or this or that. And then when I looked at the economics around the business, they weren't giving jack shit. They inflated the price of the product so much that they were able to make their full margin and then give back whatever they were. As we all know, there's been plenty of buy one, give one. And it got me so cynical to the majority of the altruistic entrepreneur who was using good as a front. And I think we have a lot of understanding that when big brands do things, we're always cynical. But to me, they've been dramatically better social players than the entrepreneurs who are out there fronting that they're saving the world, but they really just give a shit about their economics.
Yeah, and I think I see so many people like day to day in the work I do. Like I see people really killing it all the time, and no eyes are on them whatsoever. Like I see people who are absolutely smashing it in their communities every single day, and no eyes are on them.
Oh snap! That's her.
I agree, and that's what we were saying. Says, I think when you have a front and it kind of hasn't got the guts and the kind of anything else to offer, I think it is even worse, because then you're using something as a mask that really shouldn't be used as a mask. It's really about people and it's about one another. So I think the way I've seen the brands are turning and helping is being able to find those change makers, being able to find those individuals who are already doing it in their communities, being able to highlight them and support them in a way. Because I meet so many people who need that support, but they're just doing it and they're not expecting it, but they could probably do a hell of a lot more if they had that engine. So yeah, I think it's important to kind of recognize those people maybe who are already. I mean, and as far as having too many ideas going in, maybe people do. I don't know. I've had that experience where people have maybe had this foolproof plan about how they're going to give, and I guess for me, it's just about going out there and I just talk to people. I just have a conversation. You know, that's why I think literally I'm not doing anything. I'm up here because of a journey. I'm not up here because I talk to people. I have a conversation. I say hello to people. That's what I do. You know.
Yes, I mean, I think one of the fascinating things about, so I'm pretty uncomfortable. You know, it's funny. I'm so comfortable publicizing I want to buy a sports franchise, but I'm outrageously uncomfortable, and a lot of my inner circle's curious about. I'm uncomfortable talking about the things I do in nonprofit. I once had to, after I got into a huge Twitter rant 7 years ago, meet somebody at a Starbucks and show them my tax return because I got into this like tiff. Nonetheless, why I bring that up is I'm fascinated by what people want to talk about, don't want to talk about, and I think that's up to everybody. But in that same parallel, the thing that became more obvious to me is it's stunning that at this point in my life, it's far more easy for me to write a check to a nonprofit than sit on the boards that I'm on or actually give time, right? And I think it's, you know, and by the way, I tell when I say that a lot of times to my friend, I had a friend who heard me say that in some podcast, and he like hit me up. I got on the phone with him. He's like, man, I feel bad. I should start doing some like actually giving time. I'm like, bro, I'll be honest with you. Like, plenty of organizations need money. Like this is not about like one or the other. It's just like, what do you have to give? Like a lot of startup people are like, I don't have money. I'm like, you have your time. Like, you want to build a business and you have no money? Good news. You have your time. Like, go reply to every single person on Twitter talking about your topic. Like that's what I did. Like, you know, you got one or the other. And I think when I think about giving, I think a lot about time or money, just like I do with businesses. And I think that's another thing that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you touched on that, because it's like it's you identifying what your time is and how it's best given as well. Like, I mean, a lot of people message me and get in touch with me and be like, yo, I want to come out with you on the street and hang out, or like, let's go out and give on the street people. And I'm like, there's this guy Franco who's here tonight who's helping me. He just came out of the woodwork from nowhere, and he's like, I'm an editor. Someone introduced me. I'm like, that's so valuable. Oh my God, I've got someone to help me edit some stuff for the first time ever. I'm like, oh God, that's incredible. I mean, I'm just saying, that's just one example of like, you and your time can be spent all kinds of ways. It's going to, again, bring people up and kind of help, like direct help.
This goes back to giving. It's funny because I'm sure you get hit up by people who are like, hey, I want to go out with you. Mm-hmm. And because what they want is they want to go out with you, take a selfie with you, get the awareness that they were with you because they think you're cool or it's cool, and that's what they're actually trying to accomplish. This goes back to like giving on the other person's terms. I mean, I literally get 700 emails a month when somebody knows I'm going to be in some town. They're like, Gary, like in the title, like, great news, I will pick you up from the airport and drive you to your hotel. I want to really give. I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. I'm like, that's $48 Uber ride. I need my peace and quiet to catch up with the work when I land from the flight. You don't want to give me a ride. You want me to give you fucking consulting for 45 minutes while we drive. You can save your lunch that you want me to buy, that you want to buy for me and all that. And I'm fascinated by, you know, and a lot of times I'll hit up those kids. They're like, yo, it's not working. I'm like, because you're not giving. When you're DMing somebody, you're asking. You're trying to take. Like, you know, it's a really funny thing to try to get somebody to click on what the definition of giving is. People struggle with selfishness.
Is that bacon?
They really do. They struggle with not being selfish in the disguise of giving. And I think the reason I want to talk about it and keep throwing out these examples is once you're aware of it, people oftentimes aren't aware. You know, but once you become aware of it, I actually think it changes the entire framework of this conversation.
Do you have a definition, Gary?
You know, so I think giving, and I used, you know, whether I use selflessness or giving, for me, it's like, what do you want? Right? Like, if I'm going to give, or if I'm going to be something, like, if I'm doing something for you, it can't be what I think you need. It can't be what I have to give you, or what's convenient for me to give you. It has to be what you want, what you need. The other party If you're giving, the other party needs that thing. And so that's the part that keeps playing over and over in my head. Like, giving with the two core things I'm fascinated by is people are great at giving when they have something to give, but if the other person doesn't want it, that's not giving. And then much scarier to me, the one that I'm most cynical to, is I'm going to give to you right now because I have something I want from you in even if you're strategic and in 3.5 years, there's something I want from you. I don't mind if somebody's thoughtful and can conceive that there may be, I even do that. I do things that like, oh, this could, it's that I don't expect.
Do you think that's not people with giving?
100,000%.
No, in actually being afraid of it being selfish and giving.
You know what's funny? I've thought about that a little bit. I'm not sure, but fuck, I'd much rather that be the case than the alternative, right? Like, I'd much rather people struggle that they're with how they're giving versus having a loaded gun on their giving. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, for me, I've come to learn that I like admiration. I want a statue. I don't want money, right? And so my selfishness is that I want to be admired and liked and appreciated, and thus I've defaulted into giving, right? In whatever way I think about it. Like, but yeah, I think it's a very interesting. What's fun, because I know there's a lot of business people here. It's how I market. I think it's all very tied together. It's being consumer centric. It's being human centric. I think giving is a really important concept because I think the way people have it framed is so much more selfish. I'm going to share something I've shared very few times in my life. That's right.
Welcome back. Antonio Wells here. Android Tap, Android App Reviews. Taking a look at audiobooks now. It offers thousands.
Probably the single biggest disappointing moment in my life of something I absolutely did not see at all. And when I was faced with it, just took the wind out of my body was when I started joining nonprofit boards and realized almost everybody that was there to network with people, to do shit in the outside world in business, not because they were there for the giving. I wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook for a very specific reason. I thought the best way to market is to give, and then ask and not expect. Not give, and then take. When you give, you give. When you're asking, you're asking. Don't be half pregnant in your giving. Don't be half pregnant in your ask when you want to sell something. It just crushed me. And it was literally the second meeting I ever had. First one was a little weird. Second one, I kind of looked around during it's a 3-hour board meeting. We're trying to build schools in Ghana. And then I'm just listening to what everybody's actually saying when they're grabbing fruit or going for a pee break. And I'm like, fuck. It crushed me. And then I saw it again heavily with when Tom's was successful, the give one, that was very obvious to me. And I see companies doing it all the time. Companies are trying to be good or be more diverse or do the right thing. They're companies. They're trying to make money. And we sense it. But I think we are cynical to big companies, and I think we need to be more thoughtful about individual humans because humans are hiding. Humans are hiding. And I think if humans understood how life actually works, which is when you have something to give and you give without expectation. When you truly, right? I mean, this is what I sensed from our jam. I think it's working for you because you literally have no fucking expectation.
Yeah, my only expectation is literally when I go to sleep at night, I'm just like, my expectation is that guy I've seen that day and how he felt and how I felt. It's so low, and I know some people are my benchmark is so low on what is a good day for me, and that sounds really awful. It's really, really not. It's just that I set it somewhere it's completely based on my own expectation, and that's exactly where it is. But for me, I see the having time for one another, whether that's a company or whether that's an individual. I guess it's harder to see with a bigger.
Right, I'm gonna
I know it needs
do
to be
this
more
stupid
of a buffer to be
pausing
able to
thing
create
again
those
because
to be able to,
I don't
we've
know.
all seen those campaigns that go wrong, and we question them.
We'll see if it
Sometimes
works.
that does need a buffer and a bridge. So I agree. I think that's
The thing I
I think I figured this
I think
out.
is important to make me palpable that I would highly recommend people think about is what is your level of humility? I said in the 4Ds just now with some people, I really meant it. If I die tomorrow, I think I'll have a good 3-hour run on social media where everybody will share their favorite piece of content, whatever it might be. And literally every single person that is even my superest fan and consumes me 30 hours a day, a week later will be on to their life. And I think when you actually, like, I want to impact 7.7 billion people. That is my ambition. My ambition is to share what my mom did so well with me and pass it on. And my mom, my dad, my circumstances, but really my fucking mom, the way she parented me in that optimism and positivity, but with accountability, right? That balance, which I think we've lost in modern parenting. If I can share that, impact people, get them into perspective, like, I push out my content like 400 trillion to 1. Look, if you like, who likes math in here? You should be happy as fuck. Because when I tell you that your likelihood of being born is 400 trillion to 1, and you go and do the math behind it and actually accept the modern science behind this, which is 400 trillion to 1. If you actually wrap your fucking head around the fact that we're all humans and we're sitting here right now, and the likelihood of that is literally impossible, oh, I don't know, all of a sudden shit gets happy. I'm being serious. I'm being real serious. People are like, why are you so happy? Like, if 13 people didn't die today, everything else is manageable. And I really live my life that way, and that leads to happy, that's perspective, and that lets you, but that is my goal. My goal is the wiring and serendipity of my DNA. Now that there's an internet, I'm like, fuck it, let me share it at scale. I enjoy it. I like getting stopped at the airport and somebody saying, you shit, like, I love it, and I'm gonna do it, and I want to reach all 7.7 billion people. I mean it with all my heart. But I also mean it, and I mean this. And I think I can, and I might, and I really mean that. And I also think I mean jack shit. And once you get that fucking balance, shit gets good. And I think that's what you have. I mean that.
I appreciate it, and I feel so much the same. I feel like that's kind of what I meant about my benchmark being low. My ambition is super high. Like equally, I want to get us out there to thousands and thousands of people. I want this to be a continued global movement. I feel amazing every time I see it grow, but my benchmark is low in the sense that I'm here. I'm like waking up each day, and in those small moments we have, which is just literally being aware for one another each day, the way we interact with one another each day is where it's happening.
Well, this speeds things up a
I
bit.
just thought of something. 3 days ago, I'm so pissed. Like, D-Rock, you around? Good. So 3 days ago, one of the most interesting things happened just on this point that you're making. I was getting out of the car, and I looked at the guy who was sitting in a truck. And he was like a rugged-looking dude. And I looked at him, and I smiled, and he smiled back at me. And I just remember thinking, like, because I do it all, I'm just happy, and I fucking love smiling at people. Because, one, I live in New York, and so, like, that just fucks with people in general. But
Yeah, I do that too.
It's a much more what you're saying. But it is stunning how much people enjoy if you look them dead in the eye while walking by them in the airport or on the street and smile at them. How stunningly warm the reaction is by people. And I think about these things because I'm like, okay, if I start really pushing this, well, then it's gonna become a tactic. And but then I'm like, back to your question, like giving too much. I'm like, but that's still good because that's better than not doing. Like, I think about this shit all the time. But I don't know, it hit me so. I don't know why it was this time. I don't know what the hell I sensed or what what was going on. It was just, it really like shook. Like, like I get goosebumps. I like feel shit sometimes. I was like, this was good. There was something there. I remember thinking like, where the fuck's D-Rock? Like, we should film this. Like, and I think this is an important topic. I really do think this is an important topic. And by the way, I think the macro anxiety and tension in our world today, politically, I think is a tremendous thing. I just want everybody to know. I think it's a tremendous thing. One man's point of view, because I think it's our one step backwards for 2 steps forward. Because I think we're being exposed.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I feel like if you believe that, which I think everyone in this room will believe, mental health is
I like that.
You've got to believe that something like a smile is the antidote to that, because that stuff is real. And there's this guy in that board, in Victoria the other day, he said to me, he was like, it's funny when you like do something for someone, even just small, just talk on a smile, like you're not supposed to get it back in that moment. You're not supposed to get it back right then, but they might wander around the corner and they might like give it to someone else. And he was saying this really simplified way. I'm like, yeah, that's it. He knows exactly what it's about. He hasn't overthought it. He just knows if he gives it out there, that's going to ripple, and that ripple to the start of your day, that can affect your creative, your work rate, your success in every way. I truly believe that. I think that even though it sounds small, it sounds like you might feel good now, but it smells great, but it's literally, I think it's very real.
I'll tell you how real I think it is. I think that 37 years ago, which is 5 minutes ago, if we're sitting here and we're telling everybody here that meditation's the shit, we're some weird monks from fucking India. Yeah. Now every cool fucking hipster meditates every day, and it's the core of their fucking existence. Right? I mean this. I think that it's really funny the timing of things that are fucking completely outlandish. The way we eat and exercise and mental. Everything that we now think is standard, cool, or right, 30 years ago was some left field shit. Just like being, my entire fucking life at this point, secretly, is to trick 15 to 25-year-old alpha males that nobody else can get to except me, and trick them into understanding that kindness and gratitude and empathy is the foundation of an alpha winner. Sounds ridiculous now. I know what's going on out there, but I'm telling you, I can taste it. I know it. I know I can do it, or at least my part, and that builds momentum. And we were talking upstairs. We were talking a little bit about scale. I was like, just fucking execute. I genuinely believe that one woman, one man, just executing, can actually impact a lot of people. Because I think when you do the right thing, the amplification becomes inevitable. I really believe that. And I think now we live in a world where so much is being amplified naturally. I think what we need to be careful of when we get into big stuff like this is the caricature of. Tom Shoes can start out actually giving back, but then the manifestation changes. Social media originally was us sharing ourselves. Now we're the PR agents of ourselves on those platforms. Like literally somebody here is going to go fucking hiking this weekend just for the fucking photo. You don't want to hike. You need the Instagram photo showing that you're hiking. So we as humans can really become caricatures. No question, the biggest thing I talk to myself about is do not become the caricature of yourself because of what's happening with you. Which is why I don't consume. I do not get high on your fucking own supply. You're shit. Just fucking execute. Don't get caught up.
Yeah, I was going to ask like how you keep in check with that each day, but I think we already answered that. It's just like being accountable.
I just generally know that nobody's going to give a fuck what I got. And it's super easy. It's super easy not to get too high. You can read, first of all, I like reading my negative comments way more than my positive ones. I mean it. And I don't think they're trolls and haters. I really don't. I think that they've consumed me in a context, and I need to be thoughtful about what they're thinking. Now, I equally believe that if you're taking time to consume other people's content on the internet, and then you have the energy to leave terrible comments, you're in a sad place yourself. So usually when I read like Garyvee or Steak Oil Salesman, my first default is, okay, why do they interpret this content this way? But even before I go there, my alpha, even before that, my first default is like, I feel bad for that person.
And you just did someone you want to reach, right? You know what I mean? In some ways,
yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
If I relate that to what I'm doing too, if I get that comment where it's like, oh yeah, but these people should get a job, and oh, they're drugs, and oh, they're this and that, I'm like, that's exactly what I talk to. Because otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, otherwise someone's just not in my head.
I think that's right. I think also you have to understand humans. Humans only know 2 ways to build the biggest building.
Hey, we're the Mickelson twins, and in the next 30 seconds, we're going to show you exactly how we live in this Bali mansion at 23 years old. Our life literally
These are
feels
horrible
like
ads.
we travel the world, exploring the craziest places with the most amazing people, eating the best food.
Scamming one another
Because we're special
for mastermind
rich parents. It's
fees.
because we made the decision to not be
average. So, my name is Rasmus Mikkelsen. My name is Christian Mikkelsen, and we are the Mikkelsen twins. We're 23-year-old college dropouts, and since then we've gone on to build multiple six-figure businesses, but it's not always been this way. 2 years ago, before we ever discovered what online business was, we were living...
Yeah, sorry boys.
Most people's strategy of building the biggest building in town is by tearing down everybody else's building. There are a few people who just go out, put their head down, and try to just build the biggest building. And I think that for whatever reason, thank God that moment that my parents decided to have sex and have a child, that default DNA that I have, that I've never, the thought of tearing down other people for my success seems like such loser shit. Like when I watch other people try to tear down the competitive landscape for them to look big, it's the biggest tell of a loser. A lot of people get micro big wins in that. That model works. It works. I think people get confused. It works in the short term. It's got no sustainability for legacy. That person always loses in the end. Always. But people are caught up in short-term ROI because you're insecure and you care about other people's opinion. Like, what is the balance of you genuinely want to do something good, but you also have your own whatever ambitions or wants or needs? I think one of the biggest reasons I talk way more about trying to buy the New York Jets than I do about all the good things I do is because I think I've wanted to speed up the interactions of not. I don't mind that people think what they think, and I think transparency matters. I think most people's vulnerability that are good humans are hiding whatever selfish things they want for themselves because they think it undermines their good. And I think you can carry two contradictory things within a human being, and I think your life's work will play out, and we will judge in the end. I am outrageously interested in being booed in the third quarter. I just want to be cheered when it's 0-0. You understand? People struggle with that. Because it comes down to self-esteem and insecurities and many other things. I tell everybody that I meet along the way that I think is authentic, put your 2 fingers in your ears, execute in perpetuity, and let the fucking chips fall. That's the only way you'll ever be able to achieve something remarkable. Because when you are doing anything interesting or game-changing or like different, I've only been booed my whole life. Every single thing I've done, basically from school to professionally. I mean, I don't know if I've ever taken more heat for not opening a second liquor store with my dad. Like the entire liquor industry, which was my life, right? My dad's liquor industry in New Jersey was my life. Every one of those people fucking ridiculed the shit out of me for selling liquor on the computer. You're pouring all that money and selling liquor on the computer, you should open a second liquor store, right? So, like, I think there's certain people, there's different kinds of teachers, there's certain people who are just capable of doing that, and I think the reason I talk a lot about it is my hope is if this one fucking answer can let them hear one less voice, that's moving the needle. Because you're either on offense or you're on defense. And dwelling about other people's opinions of how you live your life is defense. And I want to remind everybody, the current state of political correctness moves. I have no interest in living my life and parenting my children on today's current state of how you should raise your children. You raise your children your way. I'll raise mine, right? And I think that's something that I think anybody doing something has to navigate. The other thing is I try to convince nobody of anything. I have zero interest in convincing anybody that anything I say is right. Like zero. Like people always like, Gary, how do you convince the clients to do social media? I'm like, I don't. I tell them what I believe, and hopefully they'll do something about it. And if not, then I can't wait to see in 7 years when I can tell them